So the other part of architecture that I wanted to ask you about, the series is called Tales from Honeysuckle Street. And
Yep.
you also on social media, I have seen like you have sketches of each house, and the whole series inspiration seems to be very architecture centered.
Yeah.
So can you talk about how your creative process comes from this architecture?
Yeah, it was so that was the idea for having a street. And so there is the townhouses on one side, which is something that we equate as being very typically London, is fairly established by the time that I'm writing, but is not across the board, definitely not to the extent that you see it now. And so it is all about the new and the modern and those types of things. And so that is contrasted with this much more slow, higgledy-piggledy type of development. And so the first house that is built in this area has massive land around it. And I just like that idea of layering. And because we often talk about eras and ideas and places, and here's what people bought and here's what they wore, but we also have layers when we live in a time. We live in older houses, or we people don't update their fashions. We carry past generations and movements and ideas with us as we move into each new one. And so the houses in the street were a way to acknowledge that. So the Palladian, which is where Odette Delaney lives, she's a very wealthy soprano, is the first house in the street from the about 1730. And so houses are also a really nice way of reflecting character traits. So she has this beautiful house, but then Albert and his daughter Iris, who are from the first book, their house is red brick and it's earth, and it has, beautiful vines growing over it. So it's a very honest looking house. So it's also a nice way to have a shortcut to use a bit of symbolism to denote a little bit about who these characters might be. So that was the idea. And it also just, I mean, it let me nerd out. That was the other part of it. So, and I said, oh, and I need one of these and one of these. So it was just fun. So it's part of that also, write what you know. So in establishing what my world would look like, it was very much a world that I could draw on without too much of a challenge, but also I knew where I could find more information, and I could find the floor plans. I have floor plans for the townhouses. And so that's definitely feeds into the creative process in terms of the writing, because the townhouses are on 5 levels. And in Undercover with the Heiress, that was, I sort of felt like I was writing and going up and down the stairs all the time. I was a little bit worried because they have to move between all these layers, but you also can have power structures and separation once you start moving through stairs and doors. And there's a lot about thresholds and change that can be used. So the architecture, I hope it's not prominent in the writing, but in terms of my writing, it's very, very important. It's significant that Florence doesn't really go into the office, that she hangs in the doorway. And then as the story goes, she is invited in more and more for different reasons. And yeah, so that's how architecture is sort of part of what I do with this series. I really enjoy doing it too.
That's so beautiful. I love that. I am not an architecture person, but at the beginning of this year, I opened up Sims 4 and I built out a model of the house that's in my current series. And it had already been in my head, but having to build it in Sims 4 made me make some decisions of things like I'd never had to decide where is that door.
Yep.
And and then I wrote the next book. And since I had done the model, it was a richer experience for me as a writer to like, oh, I know I've been in this room because I created it. So I
Yep.
know you've sketched them, but if you want, I
Mm.
can recommend Sims for actually
Yeah.
building the models.
I think I would get lost. I would get absolutely lost in something like Sims. But yeah, it would. I had a massive nerd out when I saw you put that online. I was like, that's so cool. So
Well, thank you.